It's Abby. This is a video on Mars in Gemini. Now, Mars in the natal chart is your action, aggression, your masculinity, and your sexuality. When I say masculinity, even if you're a female, you still have masculine parts to you. You still have sort of an assertive nature to you. If you don't feel like you do, then you're probably attracted to somebody who displays your Mars qualities. Now, if you have Mars in Gemini, you have Mars in an air sign, so air signs are intellectually driven, talk instead of doing. Gemini is also a mutable sign, and the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And those signs are basically very flexible, very go with the flow, but they can tend to be a bit spread thin, so they're scattered. So Mars in Gemini is going to be very social. This is an intellectual social sign. So you're going to be driven based on social needs. For example, you might not like to do things alone if you have Mars in Gemini. You might always like to do things with a bunch of other people. You might just like to talk about doing things, like I said. You're probably brilliant at school. You were probably just like, bam, I got this. And it's not so much that people with Mars in air signs are necessarily very intelligent, because that's really more your Mercury. That's how you think. Mars in air signs, especially Gemini, is really good at just talking, basically, just seeming very intellectual. Somebody with Mars in Gemini is going to be spread thin. They are going to have scattered energy. You're going to like to do things like juggling several things at once all the time. There is no way that somebody with Mars in Gemini can sit and focus on one thing and one thing only for too long of a time, like more than 30 seconds. This is the most ADD of all the Mars signs. Like, you might actually have ADD if you have Mars in Gemini, and it's because they're multitaskers. You are literally the best multitaskers, that is for sure. In fact, if you have Mars in Gemini, you're probably best off doing multiple things at once. I have Gemini on my IC, and I like to do things when I'm home alone, when I'm in my comfort zone. I like to do multiple things at once. I can't just sit and watch a video. Like, I've got to be knitting and watching a movie and possibly doing another thing like cooking. I cannot just sit still and do one thing when I'm at home. It's impossible for me. And that's kind of how Mars in Gemini is. Like, when you go to action, it's best if you try to do 5 projects at once, because you'll eventually get them all done and you'll juggle them in perfect order. But if you try to focus on one thing and one thing only, you're going to get so bored that you're going to completely just zone out and start like messing up whatever you're doing. If you have somebody like a child with Mars in Gemini, or you have a worker with this placement, you're not going to want to force them to do one thing, just sit down and block out everything else. Don't do that to them. You also might get you don't have very good energy when it comes to the long haul with this placement. So if you are worried about stamina, you're going to have to basically recharge your batteries by social means, like learning, talking to people, communicating. That is how you're actually going to motivate yourself to keep going. Somebody with Mars in a fixed sign, for example, they don't really need outside motivation. Maybe Aquarius a little bit with like social motivation, but for the most part, someone with Mars in a fixed sign is going to be like, I see the goal, nothing's going to stop me from getting there. In a mutable sign like Gemini, it's not like that. Like, you are distracted by every little thing on the way. You're like, whoa, what's this? Whoa, what's this? You might not even have a straight path to anything. It might be like curvy. And you have to understand that about yourself so that you can work with it. Now, one thing you're super good at is like embracing change. Mutable signs love change. Like, they just understand, because they represent the changing of the seasons, that life is about change. It is inevitable, and they are the best at accommodating it. In fact, you thrive off of change. So it helps you to get a change of scenery, to get outside of your environment if you're trying to get things done. It also helps you to talk to a lot of people and learn a lot of things, because you're curious. Gemini is the most curious sign. So Mars here it's curious, and you have to keep that sort of fresh feeling about a topic in order to stay interested in it. You have to learn new things about it. When it comes to anger, you're more about wit, and you probably are really good at like just coming out with like really awful things to say. Like, you can just cut someone down with your words. Like, that's how you fight, is with your words. And they come to you like that. You know, you're not really like someone that's gonna take a punch at someone. You're not really the type to like get physical, for example. Like you wouldn't leap into a fight, but someone with Mars and Gemini, they're going to use their words automatically. You have to be careful of this though sometimes, because you might just say something that is flippant, because Gemini is a very superficial sign. It just dances on the surface of many things at once. So you might say something that you later regret. Or you might not regret it at all. I've actually never known a Gemini to show any regret. Sorry, Geminis, you guys do not seem to give a shit. Zero fucks given. If you have this natal placement, you might get nervous. You might have anxiety. You have this sort of nervous energy, and you kind of have to sort of be doing something, especially with your hands. It helps if you do things with your hands. Like if you're at school or you're learning, you're at college or whatever, you're in a meeting at work, it helps if you do something like if you doodle or like I said that I knit while I watch TV. So if you can figure out things to do with your hands, that helps you. When it comes to sexuality, Mars in Gemini is very curious in the bedroom. You love like talking in the bedroom. I mean, you like pillow talk. You get turned on by words. You might get turned on by someone who like reads you a poem or like a passage from a book. You're really all about words. Or you might just like dirty talk. Again, you don't have a lot of stamina, so this does also apply in the bedroom. You do like to try a lot of different things, so it actually increases your stamina to like try different positions or like do things in different places you've never done them before. You like to keep things fresh, so you have to kind of keep that in mind. You might like costume play maybe, because you just like different new things. I don't know. I don't have Mars and Gemini, sorry. So that's Mars and Gemini. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them, and thank you for watching. Bye.